What up, everybody? It's your boy Nerd. Another really chill stream. Welcome back to the dungeon, everybody. It's your boy. It's Saturday, man. It's Dev Diary Day. That's right. We are Dev Diary number 4 today. We're working in Unity. Working on our platformer. Saturday, for those of you that are pretty new to the stream and the channel. Saturday is where I take a couple hour break from gaming throughout the week, and I dedicate myself to designing my own game. I do have a background in light game design. I've worked in Unreal, Godot, a couple of other design platforms or engines, if you will. And I've never had a chance to work with or learn Unity, so I'm teaching myself Unity step by step every episode. Up here, we watch YouTube videos, and we put it over here. Running a 3-screen setup, so I'm kind of back and forth between all 3 monitors here. So yeah, welcome everybody. So where we left off last week, we made some incredible progress last week because we got the audio fixed. We've got the overall, like, hearing the YouTube videos and stuff like that instead of having to read closed captions. So that was nice. Let me turn this music down just a smidge. If that music gets too loud, just feel free to let me know. That is the chill hip-hop beats and, like, lo-fi stuff down here on Spotify. It's a Twitch streaming copyright-free playlist. Just background music. But if it gets too loud, feel free to let me know. So in last week's Dev Diary, we were making really good progress in loading assets and backgrounds, and we even dabbled a little bit in the animations, specifically like the gems here. So we can hit the play button and just kind of see what we managed to unpack. So yeah, we don't have any player movement, so we're gonna work on that a little bit today, and I've had some time to think about it. I know we worked on it a lot last week, chat. I don't like that background anymore, and I'm glad we're not at like the publishing phase, but because I would see that in the game store and I'd be like, ugh, I don't like that background. So we're gonna work on that today too. So I'm designing this game in, I want to do 5 levels. Everything you see here is placeholder images. What I want to do is eventually replace all these stock free images with like the actual characters and backgrounds and stuff like that. It's going to be a platformer that's centered around food, pizza specifically, because in my day job I work with pizza. I won't get too much into it. I'm not like a cook or anything, but I work in the pizza industry. And I want to make a fun game that's free that I can distribute to other people for free, and then get coworkers and bosses and employees and stuff to play it and kind of have a good laugh. I want the player to collect pieces of food, go through obstacles, and then defeat a boss at the end of the level. And I have 5 levels in my brain, and then the game is done. It's going to be a really short and sweet kind of game. You start off as a crew member on level 1, and the boss of level 1 is the shift lead. And then once you defeat the shift lead, you become the shift lead, and then you go through the second level, and you gotta battle the assistant manager. And then you become the assistant manager, and level 3, you gotta beat the general manager. Then once you beat the general manager, you become him on level 4. And then you gotta do obstacles, collect things and stuff like that, and you gotta battle the district manager. And then after you battle the district manager, then you battle, like, the owner or the regional manager, director of operations, those kind of people, like the big guys, right? And then like each level will get like harder and harder with more and more challenges, and then there'll be like a secret bonus level you can go in at any stage and battle against HR. And I thought that would be kind of like a nice little bonus stage. What up, Wormy? Welcome to the chat, fool. So it's gonna be like a 5-level game with a bonus level that's optional. And then at the end of the game, it's just game over. The end. You beat it. You go back to the title screen, and that's it. So this is why I wanted like every level to look like it was indoors. Yo, Memory, welcome to the stream, bud. I wanted every level to look like it was indoors because if it's a pizza, fuck HR, whoop that ass, right? If every level is supposed to take place with a pizza theme in a restaurant or that pizza setting, then it should look like it's indoors. So this brick, this grass, it's not going to work for me. So we're going to work on getting rid of that as well. But for now, I think what I would like to do is work on importing player movement. And at least get the movement to be able to move across the screen. Right? You play a platformer, you need two things. You have to have something that you see, and you have to be able to move around. Or if it's a stationary game, something moves towards you, or it gives the illusion that you're moving. There's a lot of those games like Temple Run and Subway Surfer where it gives the illusion that you're moving, but you're not. Your character's just in a run animation. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate you stopping in just to say hi. You're in a run animation. It gives the illusion that you're running, but it's actually the background and the foreground and all that, like moving towards you to give the illusion that you're running. That's obviously not the case here. So, what I'm going to do is inject some movement animation. The animations probably won't be any different. I mean, I do have like a jump animation here. A run animation, so on and so on. So, with that being said, we're going to go over to our movement, 2D movement in Unity tutorial.
One of the most essential parts of creating a 2D game is of course player movement. And even though it's one of those basic mechanics that we
often... If this gets too loud for you, chat, let me know if my volume levels are off.
And take for granted, creating a really good player controller can actually be quite challenging. In fact, it's something that even experienced programmers can spend weeks or even months of development time getting to feel just right. Of course, everything depends on what you want your character to do. Can he jump? Can he be controlled in air? Can he crouch? Can he wall run? Does he slide down ledges? What about animation? And so on. Now that might sound a bit overwhelming, but as always with game development, there are ways that we can cheat a little bit. If you're just starting out, I really recommend finding a good character controller online, simply because you don't want to be stuck doing movement when there are so many other aspects of game development that you should explore. Also, this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with more than 21,000 classes on game development, tech, and more. And since this is a 2D video, I thought I would introduce you guys to an awesome course on creating a bone-based 2D character in Unity.
I don't want to take a course.
Beginner-friendly course is made by game developer Vlad, than a sprite renderer, as well as a main camera, of course some different tiles making up our level, and I've gone ahead and placed colliders on the platforms as well as the ground. And then we have a few background elements. So since we're going to be using a character controller to help us with our movement, we of course first have to get it into Unity. Mine is right here on the desktop. I'll of course have a link to where you can download the script as well as the entire project. So I'm just going to take this and drag it into Unity. And right away, let's select our player and drag our script on there. If we have a look at the different variables that are in our script, we can see that we can adjust.
So we need to have our eyes on the player. That would just be idle. But that's the animation. Sprite renderer animator. So we need to download the script that he was talking about. Character controller. I guess. I don't know how to use GitHub. Let's open up. I'm opening up this file here real quick. Make sure it's good. I'm scanning it before I download it to my computer. All right, so we will. Is that a whole script? So we will copy, go to our desktop, pizza game, pizza platformer, assets. We'll just paste in here. So we'll scroll back up to the tutorial. Shit, what was the name of that script? Character controller. Character controller 2D.cs. And it is in it's in the same root folder as assets. Maybe that's not the way to do it. All right, so let me open up the folder. There we go. Compiling script. Holy shit.
A bunch of different things that has to do with our character. First of all, we have the jump force. I'm just going to set this to a value of 700.
What? I don't see any of that. Do I just drag it into the character? Character 2D script. There we go. Okay, so you just click and drag any script you want into a sprite and it'll apply that script to it. Alright, nothing's happening. So, alright, we don't need the sprite renderer yet, or transform. So jump force.
We then have the crouch speed, which we can adjust using a slider here. And this is basically how much we want to slow down when crouching. I'm just going to set this to something like 0.4. And so we're going
to... Crouch speed, 0.4. I'm just going to mimic. He had jump force at 600.
To be moving at 40% speed.
Wait a minute. Oh yeah, jump force at 700. Okay.
While we're going to set this slider here, and this is basically how much with character. First of all, we have the jump force. I'm just going to set this to a value of 700. We then have the crouch speed, which we can adjust using a slider here. And this is basically how much we want to slow down when crouching. I'm just going to set this to something like 0.4. And so we're going to be moving at 40% speed while we're crouching. We can also adjust how much we want to smooth out our movement. I'm just going to leave that as is. Whether or not we want to be able to control the character in air, which I definitely do want to. And then we have to define this what is ground variable. And this basically just allows us to choose what layers we want to act as a walkable surface for our character. I'm just going to set this to everything and then go back in and remove the player layer because we don't want our player to be able to walk on top of himself. I'm also going to go to the top and change his...
What is ground? What's his layer? Default. Oh, shit. I've got everything in the default. I need to switch all this over. They need to be in different layers. Otherwise, it's just going to fall right through the floor. Alright, so the tile background, brick background needs to be on a... Let's see, we'll leave background... We'll leave background on default. The gems... Actually, the ground will be on add layer. Ground. So these will be on ground layer. The player can be on its own layer called player. All right, so we've got... Can we rename that default layer? We cannot. Okay. Background on default. The ground itself on ground. Players on player. So the gems can be on... We don't want the player to be able to jump on the gems, but they got to interact with them. So we will put a layer on... We'll make a layer called items. There we go. Okay, so now the player... What is ground? Just ground. Can't walk on themselves or water. Nothing like that. Okay. Did that do anything? I don't think so, but we'll test it out just in case it did anything. Okay. It did nothing. So we probably have to add movement controls and then movement animations. And then I'm going to want to... Why is it not snapping? It's not snapping. Now it is. That's fucking weird. Control copy. Okay. Just to give us some basic movement here, let's make sure that that's all in there in place, looks fine. And we'll go back here in a second and make sure that they're on the right layer. So we'll name this. We're gonna group. Right, we can group these. Call that ground. So all of ground should be on the ground. Yes, change children. We're going to do the same here. Create empty parent. Objects. Change the layer to items. Yes, all children. We're going to rename this to player. And that's on the player layer. Okay. We're doing good. What is ground? Ground check. Where the fuck's the controller? Maybe I should keep watching.
Layer to player. And then we have these 3 empty slots. The first 2 are what we call checks. And we use these to check whether or not we're currently standing on the ground so that we can determine whether or not we can jump. And if we're crouching, we want to know if there's a ceiling above our heads in order to determine if we can actually stand up again. And to make things simple, we're using these empty objects to determine where these locations are. So let's go in and create these objects. Let's right click on the player and let's hit create empty. And I'm going to switch to the move tool here by pressing W. And now we can see where the empty object is. I think this is pretty close to our ceiling check, but I'm just going to go ahead and move it up a tiny bit. Something around here. I'm then going to duplicate it by pressing Ctrl D and move this one down to the feet of our character. I'm going to rename this one to ground check and the other one to ceiling check, just to stay organized. We can then select our player and drag our ground check into the ground check slot, and the same thing for the ceiling check. The last variable here, the crouch disable collider, will target.
Hold the fuck up.
This basically just allows us to choose what layers we want to act as a walkable surface for our character. I'm just gonna set this to everything and then go back in and remove the player layer because we don't want our player to be able to walk on top of himself. I'm also going to go to the top and change his layer to player. And then we have these 3 empty slots. The first 2 are what we call checks. And we use these to check whether or not we're currently standing on the ground so that we can determine whether or not we can jump. And if we're crouching, we want to know if there's a ceiling above our heads in order to determine if we can actually stand up again. And to make things simple, we're using these empty objects to determine where these locations are.
Okay, so I need to change this to back to none for right now. And I guess we're going to assign checks on him.
So let's go in and create these objects. Let's right click on the player and let's hit create empty. And
right click and create empty.
I'm going to switch to the move tool here by pressing W. And now we can see where the empty object is.
Okay. Select W. And I know he's zoomed in on the player.
I think this is pretty close to our ceiling check, but I'm just going to go ahead and move it up a tiny bit. Something around here.
Right there. Okay.
I'm then going to duplicate it by pressing Ctrl D and move.
Duplicate it, Ctrl D.
This one down to the feet of our character. I'm going to rename this one to ground check.
Okay. So we're going to rename it ground check. And I'm assuming this one will be ceiling check.
And the other one to ceiling check, just to stay organized. We can then select our player and drag our ground check into the ground check slot.
Ground check into ground check. Ceiling check into ceiling check.
And the same thing for the ceiling check. The last variable here, the crouch disable collider, we'll talk about later. But our character controller is now set up and should work just fine. However, there are a few more components that are required in order to make our player work. The first one of these is of course a rigid body, because this will enable physics for our character. So let's hit add component and let's search for rigid body 2D.
So we're going to add a component. Yeah. Rigid. Wait, what?
Then open up this component and the first...
Does he already have a rigid body 2D? Physics? Rigid body? I don't think that was the right one. I don't see it. That's weird, chat. Here, let me move my mic over here for a second so I can not sound like I'm standing 10 feet away. I'm leaning into my keyboard right now because effects. Let's just type in 2D. Rigid body 2D. Do you have to have that shit capitalized? If you dude, if you have to have that shit capitalized, I'd be so mad. It'd be so stupid. Oh my god, dude.
First thing that we want to do in here is probably bump up our gravity scale. In general, it feels nicer if your character has a larger gravity than other objects. It makes stuff like jumping feel more snappy. I'm gonna set mine to 3, but you can of course...
Alright, we're just gonna copy everything he does. Because we're learning.
Experiment. We also don't want our character to be able to rotate at all. We simply want him to move around the level, but always have him facing upwards. Because of this, we can go under constraints and freeze the rotation on the Z axis. And now he should stay the same at all times. Finally, we need to go in here and add a collider for our player. Because right now if we play the game, we can see that he simply just falls.
He falls through the floor? Let's find out. That bitch fell through the floor. Alright. So, we're making progress, I guess. Oh, shit.
Falls down. But it can actually be a really good idea to use multiple colliders when you're working with a player. This can help smooth out collisions or make them feel more realistic. One fairly simple setup that I really like is using 2 colliders, a circle collider and a box collider. Let's start by creating the box collider. So we'll go in here and add a box collider 2D. Let's
Box collider 2D. Okay. Fair enough.
open it up, and we should now be able to see it. However, the background makes it pretty hard to see. So I'm just going to go under my main camera and disable the background for a second. And now when we select the player...
Oh shit, you can do that, I forgot. So you can go to brick background and disable it. Click on player. Okay. So that's not bad. I think I'm gonna leave that disabled for now. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna free up some memory. And I'm just gonna delete the whole goddamn brick background. We'll find another background later, chat. I'm just not. I'm not feeling it, man. No sir. Let's see, ground. There we go. I wonder if does that look easier on the eyes too when I do this? Okay, that's fine. That blue background's not the worst. I can work with that. All right, so the bitch is falling through the floor. Box collider time. What was he talking about now? Dude, this ADD is gonna kill me.
Here, we can clearly see the green bounding box. I'm gonna hit F to focus on our player. I'm then gonna press Edit Collider. And we can now scale...
I'm gonna press F. There we go.
Our collider to fit our player. And now when we select the player, we can clearly see the green bounding box. I'm gonna hit F to focus on our player. I'm then gonna press Edit Collider. And we can now scale our collider to fit our player. One thing that I recommend...
I don't think the little tassels of her hair need to count. I'm going to count the tassel or like the outline of her body. And then that one strand of hair up top on her, not going to count. Actually, I should do like kind of where the top of her head would be. And then her feet, obviously. We'll move that in to her hand. Yeah, I like that where that is. Okay.
recommend is holding down Alt to scale on both axes. Well, the reason for this is that we don't want any offset on the x-axis, because since we are flipping the character, that's going to make the collider behave really weird. So I'm just going to bring this in, and I'm also going to bring it down on the y. And finally, I actually want to completely remove this collider from the feed of our character. And that's because I found it works much better to use a circle collider here. So I'm going to stop editing this collider and add a circle collider as well.
The fuck? Get rid of the feet. We're gonna add a circle collider 2D. Let me guess. You're gonna shrink it down. So we'll hold Alt. Okay. Okay. I see where he's going. I might do that same shit on his fucking head too. Maybe.
Circle collider 2D. Let's open this up as well. And we can see right now it isn't really positioned in a way that we would like. So we can of course go in and offset it on the Y here, as well as press edit collider and kind of bring it in. And I'm gonna go ahead and move it up a tiny bit more. And if you slide on a value like this in the inspector while holding down Alt, you'll be able to fine tune much more neatly. Something like that looks pretty good. I'm actually gonna adjust the radius to be just a tad larger and bring it up a tiny bit more. And finally, I'm gonna take the box collider and bring it down a tiny bit and inwards a tiny bit. There we go. Let's stop editing the collider, and we now have these two overlapping colliders. And you can already kind of see what the benefit of this is. Because say we want to move up a slope like this one, if we were only using a box collider, it would take the edge of this collider and kind of push it towards the slope. However, since we're using a much more rounded shape, our movement is going to feel much cleaner when moving up the slope. And that's actually another reason which has to do with crouching, but we'll see that later. So let's move our player back up, and if we now hit play, we can see that immediately our player falls to the...
Really? So it should just fall to the ground? No, it still falls through the ground. Dingleberry. I have to add collision. Holy fuck. Bro. You're on a player layer. What is ground? Ground. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Well, I'm just going to copy what he did. So we're going to rename this Grass 1. And we're going to add a... What was it? Box collider. Well, that looks good to me. So now if I copy this, They've got collision. So we added collision, but here's what I don't understand. Does it look like her ankles are in the ground? Oh, she doesn't have any fucking feet. Okay. And that collision is fine there. You know, actually, I am going to edit that. I'm going to edit that. The circle collider. We're going to bring that in. You bitch. To the pixel. And then the box collider, we can bring that down just a smidge. There we go. So then she should fall and hit the ground. So I have to have a fucking box collider. I have to have a collider for every floor, every tile we put in this game. Deal. So then if I duplicate that, when we go to make sure she can jump, okay. So those all should have colliders. They're all on the ground layer. Yeah. Bet. Fucking deal. That's right. Select all them bitches. There we go. So when we're done, I want her to just be able to... I just want her to be able to jump up the stairs, run back and forth. I just want to make sure that works. Once we get those collisions done and that animation done, then we should be okay. But we gave her some collision here now, so she should have a ground to walk on. That's the most important part. Okay, we're back to our player. What are we doing?
The ground. Here? And he's ready to start moving. So let's stop playing. Let's re-enable the background here. Let's select the player. I'm just gonna close all of these components and let's add our player movement script.
All right, so we've got our players selected. Let's close all these down.
Let's hit add component, search for player movement, select new script, create an ad, and let's double click it to open it up in Visual.
Oh shit, we gotta do some shit in Visual Studio. New script. Create an ad. Double click on it. Where the Bro. I need Do I need Visual Studio for this shit, bro? That's stupid as fuck. All right. This should probably be right? I don't need the community. Bro, I could download Ark Survival Ascended for $45, but it's included with Game Pass, bro. Alright, so I think I'm going to go with... They might have just renamed it in the last 7 years to just Visual Studio Code. I'm going to install that. I might need to take actions in another window. Nope, I don't have any other windows. What does it say? You might need to take action in another window. No. No, I don't. I got no warning or anything prompting me to install anything. Might just take it a minute. Visual Studio is a pretty large file. Installed. Here we go. Get started with VS Code. I don't wanna. Yeah, Dark Modern. I don't care about themes. There we go. All right.
Visual Studio. And the script that we're going to be creating here is fairly simple. And the very first...
I'm going to blow this up, chat. Make this a little bit larger to see when I'm watching this in a VOD later and critiquing my work. 5 years from now, I can look back at this code and be like, God damn, but I didn't know shit.
Thing that we want to do is get a reference from our player movement to our character controller 2D, so that we can tell this script to move our character. To do that, at the very top of our script, we'll create a public character controller 2D variable.
So on line 7? So he went underneath Unity Engine, so he went down below public class. So he went below class, but he left the... Why is this here? That shouldn't be there. Okay. Public class, player movement, mono behavior, and then a space. Okay. So it'll be a public, and then what did he say? Character controller 2D. Why didn't it turn orange? I don't understand.
And we'll simply call it something like controller. If we then...
Okay.
And save this and go into Unity, we can see that we now get this empty slot called controller, where we can drag in our character controller script. And now
wait, really? So if I just save that? Go to my player controller. Compile the new script. Okay, so yeah, I do have the controller there. Oh, shit! Light bulb moment. Okay. Alright.
Now every time we write controller in our movement script, it's referencing this particular script. So if we were to go in here and write control...
Hold on, so which script did he drag in there?
We can drag in our character controller script.
Gotcha.
And now every time we write controller in our movement script, it's referencing this particular script. So if we were to go in here and write controller.move, well, this would go ahead and move our character. But of course, we can't just tell it to move. We need to specify where we want to move, both in what direction and at what speed. So to do that, we need to get some input from the player. And every time we get input from the player, we use the input class. So I'm going to write input dot, and then we're going to use a function called getAxisRaw. And the axis that we want to get here is the horizontal axis. Now what this is basically a value between -1 and 1 that is going to change depending on the user input. If we...
So this all I'm going to do is copy and paste this guy's fucking code. Input get axis raw.
Press the left arrow key or the A key on our keyboard, this is going to be -1. If we press the right arrow key or the D key on our keyboard, this is going to be 1. And similarly, if you're using a controller and press the thumbstick all the way to the left, it's going to be -1. And to the right, of course, it's going to be 1. So this simply gives us a value that determines where we want to move on the horizontal axis. To kind of show you this happening, I'm just going to use a simple function called debug.log, and this will print out a message to the console. In other words, we can simply display our input here inside the editor. So if we just write out this piece of code here and save it, and then hit here inside the editor.
So we'll type that in. I guess we're going to follow along with the debug process. Debug dot log, and we'll input get access and then save it.
So if we just write out this piece of code here and save it and then hit play, we can see that in the console here we get a bunch of messages saying 0. However,
console. Yeah. Fucking hell. Look at all 999 plus errors. Jesus Christ. Okay.
However, if I then press my left arrow key, we can see that it says -1. And if I press my right arrow key, we can see that it says 1. So now we have a way of detecting input. I'm gonna get rid of the debug.log here, and we could use this input to move our character right here. But it's not recommended to move a character inside of the update method. Instead, we want to use another function that is dedicated for physics. This function is called fixedUpdate, and it works in much the same way as update. However, instead of being called once every time the computer draws a frame on the screen, it's called a fixed amount of times per second, hence fixedUpdate. So let's just go ahead and create this function. I'm gonna write void fixedUpdate. Let's open and close two parentheses and some curly brackets. And this is where we want to move our character. So in general...
So it's after this one. It's got a space and then it's void fixed update. Gotcha.
When it comes to movement, we can say that we use the update method to get input from our player, and we use the fixed update method to apply that input to our character. We're not really using the start function here, so I'm just going to remove that. But we of course need to get this...
Wait, what did he do?
We're not really using the start function.
So 12 to 9 he just deletes.
Here, so I'm just going to remove that. But we of course need to get this input from one function to the other. And to do that, we need a variable. So at the top here, I'm going to write float, and let's...
So right under public.
Create a variable called something like horizontal move, and by default we'll just set that to 0.
0f. So in my graphic design, 0f is black. Or I'm sorry, gray. So the first 3 hexadecimals in a 6-digit sequence are represented by the first number or letter, and then the last 3 are represented by one letter or number. So when they're all the same, if it was all zeros, it would be black, all F's would be white. So 3 black and 3 white would make it gray, but I'm rambling. It was a nice nod to my previous education years ago. We're gonna do a horizontal move. What do you say? Equal to 0f with a semicolon. Okay. So we've got float horizontal move equals 0.
Then inside of our update method, we can set horizontal move equal to the result of our input. And we'll close that off.
Okay, so we have to copy the horizontal move over to the get axis here. So we'll write in ABC horizontal move and then equals input get axis raw horizontal
with the semicolon. Then when we want to actually move our character down here, we can write controller.move. And this of course
underneath this one, just write controller.move.
Takes in a float determining how much we want to move, and we want to move according to our horizontal move variable. And
so okay, I think I get it.
Let's then close that off with the semicolon.
I was going to say, we have to close it off somehow.
However, our move function actually also takes in two other variables. The first one determines whether or not we should crouch, and the second one determines whether or not we should jump. Right now we'll just say no to both of these, so we'll write comma and then false, saying that we don't want to crouch, and comma false, saying that we don't want to jump.
Okay. So after the horizontal move, inside the parentheses, double false. Because they're checking the crouch and jump.
But we'll of course implement both of these in a sec. Also, right now we're moving our character in the right direction, but we don't have any control over the speed. So let's just go to the top here and create another public float, and we'll call this one the run speed. And set
be 1.
set it to something like 40 by default.
40? Okay. Close it off with a semicolon.
Then when we get the input from our player, we'll go ahead and multiply that input with a run speed, so that if the player
After horizontal. Okay.
wants to move to the left, the horizontal move will be minus 40, and to the right will be 40. And the final thing that we need to do in order for this to work correctly is whenever we're telling our character to move, we actually need to multiply that movement speed with time.fixed delta time. Now
Delta time is going to be the universal time in game. Fixed. I remember delta time from Godot. Fixed delta time.
time.fixed delta time is the amount of time that elapsed since the last time this function was called. In other words, multiplying with time.fixed delta time is going to ensure that we move the same amount no matter how often this function is called. So that if this function is called 60 or 100 times per second, doesn't matter, our character speed is still going to be consistent across all systems and platforms. And now this should work, so let's go ahead and save this. And inside of Unity we can now see our...
Oh, let's go ahead and save it, he says. Inside of Unity, compile the new scripts. Let me take him a... See, Lady Nerd came in here and dropped off some food and some drink. So, salud. Oh. Before we test it, I'm going to take a bite of food for good luck, chat. Having kielbasa on brown rice, dude. Trying to watch my girlish figure. Good woman. Hey, Wormy, what up? I didn't know if you were still there, fool. It was good. Oh, let me take a bite for the road. That's really good. Just chilling with you, man. Just chilling with you. So we've got... Hopefully we followed that guy's coding and scripting. Is my headset hitting my mic? No, I don't think it is. Let me move over. See if this works. All right. So we can go off the map. Well, we've got movement, ladies and gentlemen, but I immediately threw my character right off the map. All right. So we've got movement. You like that? So what I really, really, really like about Unity right now is that in Godot, I had to program each sprite. So if I moved right or left, I had to code it to flip the sprite. Like, I had to tell the engine, hey, if I move left, make sure the character turns and looks like it's facing left. So what you hear now is me tapping on the keyboard. So we have movement, and the engine already knew to flip the sprite. Now I'm assuming in the next few minutes, this guy, this kind sir, is going to teach me how to make it jump and crouch. It's monumental, bro. Monumental. An hour ago, I did not know how to make a character move in Unity. And that wasn't even an hour. I've been streaming for an hour and 10 minutes, and half of that we were doing box colliders. So box colliders, for anybody that's following along, are... think of it like an invisible box around your player that gives it a solid form. So it can't fall through the floor. It can't run through a wall. Right? There's no real gravity in a video game. It's all simulated with code and colliders and stuff like that. So what we're doing, what a box collider is exactly that. It's a box that goes around an object to give it a sense of solidity. It makes it so that it can't go through another object. It stops when it touches it, kind of like my hand on the table. My hand has a box collider on it, and so does the table. So they collide. They don't allow them to pass through each other. So for the first half of this stream, that's all I was doing, was setting fucking colliders on the fucking player. But I digress. Let's get back to some coding. So Delta Time seems like, just from my experience with Unreal and Godot, that seems like a very common term. So it's
a
nice
run
to
speed,
see.
which we can adjust here if we want to. Let's hit play, and we can now move our character back and forth inside of our level. You'll also notice that every time our player falls, he kind of shifts into the ground a little bit. To get rid of this, we can go under rigid body and change the collision detection from discrete to continuous. And this should make sure that he never kind of goes into the ground in any way. So now we're ready to make our character jump, and this is actually really easy compared to normal movement. All we have to do is check whether or not we press the jump key. So we'll write if input.get button down. So if we press down a certain button and the button that we want to check for is jump, well then we want to go ahead and jump.
A lot of ifs. If input get button down jump. Now I gotta lock it in.
Jump. And of course, again, we want to jump inside of a fixed.
Yeah. So what we do
update functions. So we have to kind of transfer this information down here. And again, the best way to do that is using a variable. So up here, we'll now create a Boolean, and a Boolean can of course only be true or false. And we'll call this one jump, and we'll set it to false by default.
That's under horizontal move. Yeah. So we'll make a Boolean jump equals false by default because he's not gonna start the game jumping. Otherwise, one of two things will happen if I move it to true. He'll either constantly jump, which is my theory, or when you start the game, he'll immediately jump once. So by turning that to false, the player starts the animation in the non-jumping animation. I think he would constantly jump if I set it to true.
And then if we press the jump button, we're going to set jump to true. And then down in our...
We have to semicolon that off, yeah.
Fixed update, instead of saying always false, we never want to jump, we can now just pass in our jump variable. So
right.
that if we press this button and jump becomes true, we go ahead and tell the controller that we want to jump. And of course, right after that, we want jump to become false again, so that we don't keep on jumping forever.
So it's yeah. So I was gonna say after that. Wait, did he add a
button and jump becomes true? We go ahead and tell the controller that we want to jump. And of course, right after that, we want...
Yeah, but what did you type in there? Is that the letter I? I can't see that. The fuck?
Jump to become false again, so that we...
Yeah, so after. So the next action after jumping is to turn jumping off, unless I want him to keep jumping. So by setting that to false, so I think my original theory is right. If I left that to Boolean to true, then he would always be jumping forever.
We don't keep on jumping forever. And if we save that and go into Unity...
Good thing I paid attention in school.
And hit play, we should now be able to move around, and whenever we press space, voila!
Oh shit. We got jumping. Let's go ahead. We'll save it. Go in here and let it compile a new script. Take a bite for good luck. Look at that. We're gaming. Congratulations. You made a video game. She can hang on an edge. I don't like that. I don't like that. So how would we fix that, chat? Well, her box collider and her circle collider have a ledge that allows her to get snagged on a ledge. So we are going to fix that. That circle collider. Boom. All right, let's try. Shouldn't be able to get snagged on corners of sides like that. Nope. Okay. But now, what about the jump animation? She just looks like a stick figure. right? We gotta make it look like she can't change direction. Oh, she can move in the air. Okay. I'm assuming the next thing we're going to do is add the jump. Homie, you froze up. I froze up. You need to unfreeze your shit. It's not on my end, fool. I'm not frozen up. I have... It says excellent connection. 6,100 kilobytes per second. And I tell it to stream at 6,000. I cap it at 6,000. Which is 6 megabytes per second. And it's streaming at right now 6.2. Full bars with 0.2% dropped frames. So, if you're experiencing freezing, it's not me. But I appreciate the feedback. Also, before I forget, I unlocked channel roles because I can give moderator, but last night after my stream I got an email that said I unlocked the VIP role, but moderators have more power than VIPs, so you can't give a moderator VIP because moderator is like, it goes like streamer, editor, moderator, VIP, and then down, right? So I'm a streamer. I don't have any editors yet, and then moderators. So I gave Johnny VIP status, so he should, if he ever pops into the stream ever again, he should have a VIP badge next to his name. And I was going to give one to Dark Jones, because Dark Jones has been with us for like ever. But Dark Jones, there's like 6 of them on fucking Twitch, and I don't remember which one's his. Alright, so I'm assuming now we are going to go ahead and add the animation for the jump. We have to, like, that's the next step.
Character actually starts jumping. Super cool. Also, there's currently a quick problem that we need to fix.
Well, we could go through last night's VOD and find when he popped into the stream and then snag the username. I can read the chat, but I was just fucking lazy today.
Is whenever we try and jump and then move towards a platform, we can kind of get stuck on it. Of course, this is not something that we would like.
Wait, really? That's happening? Hold on. Let me simulate that. Is he telling the truth? Does he fucking... So we can get snagged on our own... Let's try it. I don't want it to get snagged on the side of walls. Oh yeah, what the fuck? That's weird. I don't want that to happen. Yeah, look at that. It fucking gets stuck. That's stupid. How do we fix that? Tell me, Mr. Internet Man.
Like, we want to simply slide off and then fall down. To get rid of this issue is luckily super easy. All we need to do is create a physics material. To do that, we'll go to our project and hit create, and we'll then select physics material 2D. And we want to create a really...
Wait, where did he do that at?
Hit create, and we'll then select physics material 2D.
There is no too much effort, right? Where do I find physics material 2D? Create. I don't think that's right. I think I just go under 2D. That's 2D object. Dynamic sprite. Let's keep watching. Maybe it'll answer itself.
And we want to create a really slippery material so that we will simply slide off. So let's just call it slippery. And in here we can adjust two settings, the friction and the bounciness. We want the...
What? I don't get it.
Luckily super easy. All we need to do is create a physics material. To do that, we'll go to our project and hit create, and we'll then select physics material 2D.
Booyah. Name it slippery.
And we want to create a really slippery material so that we will simply slide off. So let's just call it slippery. And in here we can adjust two settings, the friction and the bounciness. We want the bounciness to remain at 0, and we'll also set the friction to 0 as well. Then if we select our player, we can take this slippery physics material and drag it into the material on our box collider. And now when we play the game, we can see...
Wait, our box collider? Then we play it. Gonna sign off while we watch some TV with the wife. No worries, Home Slice. I appreciate you hanging out. That did not work. That did not work.
See that we slide right off platforms. We can still get stuck on the very corner of the circle. If this happens or not is going to depend on the way you've set up your colliders. In our case, we can simply go ahead and add the slippery material to there as well.
Okay, so we went ahead and added those. Let's give it a shot. Ah, okay. Fair enough. All right, let's add this jumping animation because I have a feeling that's
and you can
where
now
we're
see
headed.
that we fall right off of platforms. And at this point, some of you might be wondering, well, we just wrote jump. Why does this jump variable correlate to space? And why does horizontal mean A and D and left and right? Well, this is actually something that we can configure visually, because inside of Unity, if we go to Edit, Project Settings, Input, we see the Input Manager. Here we have the
Nice.
horizontal axis, input,
Edit. Project settings.
we see the input manager.
Right here.
Here we have the horizontal axis. You can see it's called horizontal here. And
okay. So A and D. Vertical, that would be jump. Oh no, jump's right here. Jump has its own.
we can see the different buttons here. There's the left and right arrow key, as well as the A and D key. So you can go in here and change it if you want to. And there's also one in here called jump, which currently has space as the positive button. If we wanted to jump on, say W, we could simply write W here instead. In fact, let's try right-clicking on this jump entry here and hit duplicate array element. This is going to go ahead and create a new button configuration with the same settings. Let's rename this one to crouch, and instead of W, we'll use the S key. Of course.
Oh. So we're giving it crouch fucking controls and we haven't even
Of course, if people want to control the character using the arrow keys, we can set that up as well. We'll just create an alternative positive button. So here it will be up for jumping, and here it will be down for crouching.
Gotcha. So alt positive space. So W or space is the way I'm reading that. Crouch can be S. Now we'll leave it.
So now we've set up all of our input and we're ready to make our character crouch. And doing this is almost as simple as jumping. We go into our update, we write if input.get button down. And the button that we want to look for now is the crouch that we just created. And if this button is
so if jump true, skip a line. If input get button down, crouch
is pressed, well, then we want to go ahead and crouch. So that let's create a variable for that up here. It's also going to be a bool that let's call it crouch, and let's set it to false by default. Then if we get the button down, we'll set crouch to true. And now down in our fixed update, instead of just passing in false, we'll put in our crouch variable. Of course, crouching doesn't work in the same way as jumping. We don't want to just quickly crouch and then stop. Instead, we want to stop crouching when we release the crouch button. In other words, we only want to crouch while holding down crouch. Luckily, we can also register whenever we release a button. To do this, let's go to the update function and let's write else if, so if we don't get a button.
Yo, what up, Johnny? Look at your new badge, fool. Look at that. Bruh. Welcome to the stream, fool. You got that VIP.
Down, we might get a button up, so we'll go input.get button.
Bro, what, Johnny? What's up? Else if input get button down
up, and again the button we're talking about here is the crouch button, and if we get a button up,
okay, so it's get button up, so it's gonna check and see if I'm still holding it. Crouch. Bro, one of my coworkers watched your Guinness Minecraft stream back in the day. For real? That was back way before you, my man. Nice. Had a lot of people back then watching that, bro. Bro, I gave you VIP status, man. So you'll always stand out in the chat, bro. Because you've been with me since motherfucking day one and shit. I'm gonna give one to Dark Jones too as soon as I see his ass again. Alright, I gotta clean up this code. Crouch equals true. Else if input get button up, crouch. Then it closes the statement. I am a god. So that opens the statement. That closed it. So it's another open statement? Right here?
up here we'll set crouch to false. So
okay. So crouch equals false if I let go of it. And then we close the statement, semicolon, done.
Now if we save this and go into Unity and hit play.
So if I save it. His looked different though.
We should now if we save this and if we get a button up here we'll set crouch to false. So now if we
oh no, he's got his stuff.
We save this and go in.
Okay. But she's not going to crouch because she doesn't have any crouch animations on her
To
yet.
Unity and hit play. We should actually be able to press down in order to crouch. However, you will really not see anything happen here.
Correct, because there's no animation, dickhead. But we can check our new movement commands. So if I go to console, so I can get her to move around. But crouch doesn't do nothing. And I need to add a jump animation. Which I think is going to be the next segment. And what I should do, my tile set, I should really add, hey, you know what? Ground should be down here. Okay. So ground. Why is it not working? I'm using the paint. Why is it not working? Something's not working here, and I don't know why. Sprites. No, we don't want all that. Ah, that's why. No, this motherfucker doesn't have a collider. So I don't want that. We're going to put that layer on ground. And we're going to give it a (2D) collider. Box. Collider 2D. We'll just rename that wall. There we go. And then we'll dupe it. I just don't want this goofy bitch running off the map. And then we're going to drop wall into the ground folder. Make sure everything there is on the ground layer. Get the player. Put this fucking gem up there. Put that gem right there. And that gem, like right there, we'll just jump into it. Okay. Let's test it out. Okay, so she can't go off map. That's a tight area to jump into. Okay. Again, these are all these assets are placeholders. Anybody out there that's watching right now for the first time, these are all just placeholder sprites and tile sets. We will clean all these up once we have them where we want them. Right now, I'm trying to teach my character how to jump. So we did a half box there. We'll do the same thing over here. Okay. So we've got movement done. Did we get rid of that sticky shit? You see how she slides down like that? That's that circle collider, man. I don't know if I like that. You see that? That's so fucking ugly. How she kind of just bloop, slides like that right off the corner. I don't like that one bit. I'm picky. I know it's a free game, but it doesn't mean it has to be shit either. Dude, I might get rid of that circle collider, bro. What do you think? Anybody out there lurking that knows a little bit about this? This circle collider. Unless I don't give it the option. Hold on. Hold on. New idea. I have the tile sets. I should just be fucking using them. Where are you at, fool? Right here. Get out of here for a minute. So I can get rid of that and that. What's this tile? Oh, that looks way cleaner. Hold on.
What is your verdict? Find the defendant guilty.
Oh, what's that gap? There we go. That looks a little bit better. No, I don't like that either. I'm worried about filling in dirt. Yeah, that's where it should be, right there. Okay, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to have to add, not to that one. But to this one, we're going to need to add... Can I add a triangle collider? No, but I can add a box collider. This is where it's going to get fucking tricky. I'm going to have to edit this bitch. No. How do you put a box collider on a slope? I don't know if I'm going to be able to have this. Custom collider. It's a polygon, not a fucking triangle. Fucking A. Hope this works. Dude, she slides downhill. No. Fucking slides downhill, bro. I'm not touching a thing. This bitch slides downhill. Oh, no. I gotta get rid of it. I gotta get rid of it. I have to. Let's just get rid of the circle collider, bro. We're not trying to be all that fancy. This gonna suck though. Okay, I don't want to do that now. So we've got this one.
All through the years, you'll remember that a man went to the gallows because she was too selfish to wait 2 hours.
Okay. So we've got to go back in and add. We've got a collider. We have a collider. We don't need a collider on that one. So that can go in there. What the fuck is this? Well, that's already in the ground folder. So I need a collider on this. And a collider on that. So this needs a box collider 2D. This needs a box collider 2D. And this needs a box collider 2D. So now everything here is now has collision. And make sure it's all on the same layer. Okay. What else do I need? We can do steep inclines. Drop that in the right folder. Okay. That's this tile here. I'm gonna rotate that. Fuck that. Okay. That's in the ground folder? Okay. So now... we're just going to duplicate these bastards because they have collision. Play. Let's see what kind of damage we did. Fucking fabulous. Let's add some animation.
Reason why is that crouching is of course something that we display with an animation, and we don't have any animations on our character. However, we should see that if we move and then try and crouch and move, we move at a much slower pace.
Do we? I didn't even check that. Suppose I could have. So we move, but we crouch and move. We move at a slower pace. Gotcha.
So it is indeed working. We can go between crouching and normal movement, and that works just fine. However, one thing that we also need to happen when crouching is of course the ability to duck under obstacles. For example, this platform here. If I currently select the player and we make sure that gizmos is enabled at the top here of our game view, let's open up our circle and box colliders, we can actually see them here. If we then try and move onto this platform, we can see that we're currently too tall to get under it.
Okay. So we want to add these. We're going to lower them a little bit. First, see if we can jump on them. We can. Okay. Okay.
That's because of this box collider right here. What I've gone ahead and done is under the character controller 2D, I've added this crouch disable collider, so that if you set up your colliders in the same way that I have, we can simply take the box collider and drag it in there, and now whenever we crouch, the box collider is going to be disabled. And so we're under the character controller 2D, I've added this crouch disable collider, so that if you set up your colliders in the same way that I have, we can simply take the box collider and drag. in there, and now whenever we crouch, the box collider is going to be disabled. And so we're only going to be using the circle collider. In fact, we can kind of see this happening. If I now press crouch, we can see that the box disappears. And if I try and crouch my way...
Oh, so we can simulate it without the animation for now. Okay. Okay. Progress.
Way under the platform, it works. We can also see that if I try and stop crouching, so now I'm going to release the button, while under the platform it's not going to work. And that's because we've set up our ceiling check correctly. So it's registering that there's something above us, and so we don't want to be able to stand up until we get to a point here where there's no longer something above us, and so we'll stop crouching. That's super cool. Of course, this currently looks a bit silly since we don't have the crouch animation, but you can see that behind the scenes everything is working as it should. Correct. And that pretty much includes this first ever character controller. From here it's completely up to you to try and expand upon it and edit different settings to get the controller feeling the way that you would like it to. Of course, this character could really do with some animation, and animation is something that's really fun and simple to add, so if that's something that you guys want to see, definitely leave a comment down below. Yay! That's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe.
Hell yeah, I subscribed. You know how much fucking work you've saved me, bro? I want to rotate. So we'll name it platform left. Platform right. Platform mid. We're going to add all of these to the ground layer. We're going to add a Box Collider 2D. We're going to edit that collider. Mid. Box Collider 2D. Edit. And on the right, add a Box Collider 2D. Edit. Make sure it's on ground platform. Good. Okay. Oh shit! The bit still found a way to get off. Animations next. 2D animations in Unity.
So when it comes time to start adding animation to your game, there are really two primary ways to go about it. The first one, and probably the most commonly used, is sprite sheet animation. This is also the technique that most people recognize from traditional animated movies, because it simply means drawing a bunch of images, each with a tiny bit of movement, and then playing them back by quickly displaying them one by one. Our character from the previous video on 2D movement already has sprite sheet animation set up in exactly this way, so that's what we're going to be using for this video. But first, this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with more than 22,000 quality classes that should help you get started. And definitely let us know if this is something that you would like to see a dedicated video on. Alright, enough talking, let's start animating. So we're here in the same scene as when we did our 2D movement. You can of course use any scene and character that you'd like. In this one we're able to move and jump around as well as crouch beneath platforms. But of course currently we have no animations in here. To change this, let's start by setting up some animation clips. To do this, we'll go to our scene view and select our player. We'll then open up our animation window, so we'll go under Window, Animation, and select Animation. And that's
player. I already have animation here.
As you can see, it tells us that to begin animating the player, we need to create both an animator and an animation clip. We'll talk about the difference between the two in a sec. For now, let's just hit create. And now we can choose where we want to save our animation. Let's right click and create a separate folder.
I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. She still has her idol, right? Animation, animator.
For this, we can choose animation. That to begin animating the player, we need to create both an animation and, as you can see, our animation clips. To do this, we'll go to our scene view and select our player. We'll then open up our animation window. So we'll go under Window, Animation, and select Animation. And as you can see, it tells us that to begin animating the player, we need to create both an animator and an animation clip. We'll talk about the difference between the two in a sec. For now, let's just hit create. And now we can choose where we want to save our animation. Let's right click and create a separate folder for this. And let's call it animation. Let's then double click this folder. And let's also rename this animation file to something like player. And then underscore the animation that we want to work on. This could be run, jump, or die. In our case, let's start with an idle animation. In other words, the animation that the player plays when he isn't really doing anything. We can then press save. So now we have this empty timeline here where we can drag in our animation sprites. Of course, the great thing about our character here is that he already comes with a bunch of images that we can use. So let's go under Sunnyland. And of course, if you want to download any of this, I will have a link for that in the description. We then go under artwork, sprites, and under the player, we can see that the sprites are split up into animation folders. So let's start by going under the idle folder. And here are 4 different images. If we just try and select one of them, we can see a preview in the bottom right here. Of course, it's pretty tiny, but if I go ahead and move through the images, we can see that they are indeed animating our character. So let's try and select all 4 sprites, and let's simply click and drag them into our animation window. And right away, we can see that 4 keyframes has been added. We can also see that if I hit play, the animation plays ridiculously fast. The reason for this is that we need to change the amount of images that are displayed each second. Currently, our samples are set to 60. A pretty standard value to use here is something like
second animation in there. If he's already got idle, I already have idle. I don't see a add new animation here, and I don't see an option to create a new. We create a new animation, jump. That's character animation controller. Idle. But there is idle animation in there. Oh, shit. I added it to always be... Oh, shit. Create. I don't want to create a new one. I already have them. Did I fuck up? Yep, I deleted the... Okay, I deleted the animation there, but... If I'm adding an animation... there. Close that out. And close that out. All right, so that was Dev Diary number 4. 4 episodes in, we already know all about our tile sets, creating characters, adding layers, backgrounds. Movement mechanics is what we learned today, as along with collision and movement. So we can move our player around the screen and we can not bump into things. So that's good. Next week, we're going to work on animations. I feel like if we can get animations down and then we can move into collecting objects, we're off to... We've got like 50% of the game done. We know how to do the artwork. We know how to make the player move around. We know how to build the level and make collision. So now we need to animate and collect objects. And that's like halfway. Then we can go ham and start actually building full-on levels and put items where we want them. Then we worry about like conditions and damage and dying and score counters and item counters and transition to the next level. That'll all come later. But once we can move around the screen, everything, animation and control is working to where we can actually play the game, then we can design. And that's what I'm looking forward to. So we will get into a lot of that next week. I'm really looking forward to it. So, with that being said, yeah, that's going to pretty much do it for me tonight. I'm going to go play some Black Ops 6 Zombies, to be honest. So if you guys are watching this and you want to jump on, link to my Discord is down below. Hit me up. Also, links to my YouTube, my X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. Links down below, especially the Discord. I always hang out on my Discord. I got it on my phone, so I'm in there all the time throughout the day. If you want to hit me up, chat, hang out with the community outside of the stream, that's where you find me. My schedule is also down below. I will catch you guys again Monday, which is Retro Rewind on Mondays. You guys take it easy. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.